treat people like garbage. I mean, that's really just what it is. And for some reason, we seem to think that this is just a different profession. You know, it's a different animal. For those of us that have been in this business for a lot of years, this is my 18th year in this industry. Look, maybe that worked 18 years ago, 10 years ago. It doesn't work today. I never agreed with it because I think you need to treat people as human beings, regardless of the industry you're in. But I think a lot of our problems are self-created. And the reason that they're self-created really stems from how we operate and how we treat people. And so that's basically what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. And I'm huge on this. Again, there's a lot of great content and a lot of great sessions, but the reason that I chose this topic is because I think that it doesn't matter how good your skill set is. If you don't have the right mindset, to me, it's useless. So this first slide here, this is a real review. I pulled these reviews of a dealer group off of Indeed about 2 weeks ago. So this is what a real, no longer an employee is saying. Turnover, turnover, turnover. Okay, so don't get on management's bad side. They will make you miserable. Mandatory weekends with no rotations. You're supposed to get breaks, but God forbid if you take one. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody. Quality of work given by dispatchers depends on how much they like you. Again, the typos, excuse them, they're not mine. I pulled the review exactly as it was. Take more than a 2-minute bathroom break and good luck to you. Use your paid time off and upon return be ready to be shunned. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think there's some pretty strong adjectives in that one. And the cons, excuse the language, but again, it's not mine. Management sucks. And then this particular group is wondering why they're having a hard time finding people. Well, that's what's on Indeed. Here's another great one. This place goes through people like underwear. They expect the world and offer nothing but a cutthroat environment where any day can be your last unless you're in with the clique. Next one, overworked, underpaid, never lets you take a day off for emergencies, no teamwork, all about themselves. Had an emergency at home and management didn't really care. Working for this company group, everyone, especially upper management, talks in circles. The GM, the leader, never has anything of substance to say. That's awesome. Just goes along with his management staff. There's long hours, and most importantly, they look for more work for less pay. The pay plans keep changing. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody. Chargebacks, cuts in your bonus. One can barely live check to check. So, a little exercise for you guys. If you're taking notes, you have a computer, write this down because we're going to come back to it later. So, and I'll read those qualities to you. I know they're a little hard to see, but what I want you guys to do now is I want you to just ask yourself these questions. And I'm not going to call on anybody. I'm not going to make you volunteer. But do me a favor, if you're going to get anything out of this session, be honest with yourself. You don't have to be honest with me or anybody else in the room, but be honest with yourself. Which side do you most identify with? So you have your manager side, your leader side. So managers have employees. Leaders win followers. So just think about that one and determine what your answer is. Managers react to change. Leaders create change. That's just proactive versus reactive. So which one do you identify with? Managers have good ideas. Leaders implement them. Managers communicate. Leaders persuade. Managers direct groups and leaders create teams. So which one are you there? Managers try to be heroes and leaders make heroes of everyone around them. Managers take credit. This is my favorite one. I love this one. Does it sound like anybody you know? Managers take credit. Leaders take responsibility. Managers are focused. Leaders create shared focus. Managers exercise power over people. And leaders create power within people and develop power within their people. So hopefully you made a little list and you identified which one you are. And guess what? I mean, hardly anybody is all of them. So I love this picture. I was just searching for some pictures when I was putting this together. And just look at that for a second. And I don't know if it reminds you guys of anybody, but I've worked with quite a few people like that. So here's my simple do's and don'ts list, and I live by these. So here's what you do. Always public praise. It's human nature. Everybody likes to be praised in public, okay? What they don't like is public criticism, being embarrassed in public. And again, something that I have seen in my 18 years in this industry is all too rampant. New salespeople come, no one trains them. Maybe they do get trained, but they go to the desk for the first time, and there's a sales manager sitting up there just talking to the person like they're a complete piece of garbage. They didn't get it right. They don't know how to fill out a guest sheet. The buyer's order's wrong. You're horrible. Why didn't you ask the customer this? Why didn't you ask the customer that? That's not a leader. I wouldn't even call that a manager. So you want private criticism. And we're going to talk more about that later, how you can make criticism more of a coaching and counseling experience versus criticism. A do. This is one of my favorite ones. A handwritten note every Monday morning. If you really want to get crazy with it, you could do it every day. I'm very busy. I'm sure you guys are too. So I committed myself to once a week. So every Monday morning, I go in my office, I reflect back on the week before, and I think about an employee who stood out to me. I have 19 internet directors that work under me and about 80, 85 BDC reps. So there's plenty to choose from. And I will think about who went above and beyond, and I won't send them an email. I won't send them a text message. I have a little piece of paper on my desk. It's just a little notepad that has my name on it and the company logo, and I'll write them a handwritten note. It's 4 sentences, and it changes their life. Because the BDC rep that works 45 minutes away that thinks that I don't know who they are now knows that I know who they are. Don't set expectations with no clear directive. Another one that's rampant in this industry. Do. This is what I want you to do. But nobody tells you how to do it. Nobody tells you how to get there. Where is the process? Don't forget to thank people. Make training fun. We'll talk about some training ideas later on in the session, but make it fun. All too often, training turns into a beat-up session. That's not, first of all, it's not training. It's not even a meeting, in my opinion, if it's a beat-up session. But it's training. My best advice to you would be go into training with a plan. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Don't just wing it. Don't write up at the first occurrence. You know, that's the other thing, too. First time somebody does something, we want to shove a write-up in their face. It's not necessary. It's the first time. They were 5 minutes late. Stop. Let's worry about the serious stuff. Instead, we're going to use something called progressive discipline, which we'll talk about in a minute. And again, we talked about not turning meetings into beat-up sessions. So, coaching and counseling. Here's the difference with coaching and counseling versus the criticism or the way that we want to bring what we think is inefficient to somebody's attention today. So normally it's just, okay, you did this wrong, here's the write-up, sign it. That doesn't work. It doesn't work because all it's going to do is make somebody upset and defensive. Whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They're just going to get defensive. It's human nature. Secondly, remember what I just said in the previous slide, where's the counseling part? Where's the coaching part? Where's the, okay, you did it wrong, but if I'm your leader, let me show you how you can do it right. Let me show you how you can do it better. Here's what I did when I was in your position that helped me get to where I am today. Think of it as, you know, how many people in this room have children? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of them. I have 2. I like to think of it almost as a parent-child relationship. You know, you're not just going to tell your kid because you care about them what they did wrong. You're going to take time to explain to them what they could do to make it right, what they should do the next time. You know, the leader, and again, I don't use manager, the leader-employee relationship is similar in a lot of ways. So here's what you want to include, not just the write-up, but again, what was observed of the employee's performance and or behavior. And be very specific. Again, a lot of times we just want to put something down with no specifics because we're going a million miles a minute. It doesn't work. Be specific. Here's a huge one, though, and this has worked tremendously for me. Instead of it just becoming a conversation about, well, I think you did this wrong, instead talk to them about what was the impact of that behavior on customer service, on other employees, on department objectives, and or the overall success of the company. So it's a bigger picture. It's not just, you did this wrong, I think you shouldn't have done it that way because my way's better than yours. It's in not doing this, here's how you impacted customer service, the overall success of the company, or your other employees. Sometimes it's all of the above, sometimes it's one. And then they start to think. And then, what we say before, don't give an order without a clear directive on how to get there. So, okay, not only did you do this wrong, but I have to take it to the next level, which is, well, what is the expected performance level or behavior going forward, and how will they accomplish it? So I'm going to give you a for instance. We have people that we've trained, and trained some more. And they still fail mystery shop after mystery shop after mystery shop after mystery shop. So first time, I'm going to give them a verbal, obviously. Second time, I'm maybe going to send them an email. Third time, I'm going to have to do coaching and counseling, which is technically the write-up. Now, I could just say, I told you 15 times, we had 20 conversations, we sent you an email, you've been through 32 training classes in the last month, okay? Here you go, just sign it, you're horrible. Let's move on. Or, what I could say is, when you do this, and this is in the write-up, the coaching and counseling form, here's how it impacts the customers. Mystery shops have a direct correlation with how we treat our actual customers or how we respond to our actual customers. And here's the statistic behind how properly handling the phone up or properly handling the internet lead correlates to sales. So in fact, using that metric, this is how many sales you potentially cost the company by not following the process or by not following the script. Moving forward, your expected performance level, because you've been given enough training, is that you need to do this immediately or we're going to have to part ways, but how can I help you get there? Because there's the how will they accomplish this? How can I help you get there? And maybe they have a suggestion and maybe they don't. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn around and I'm going to offer myself to train them. One of my stores recently, we have a Volkswagen store. New GM, store wasn't doing well. They were making about $20,000 a month gross profit every month. Not a lot. 2 BDC reps, no BDC manager. New GM goes in, he calls me, I know him a long time, he's like, I need you to come in here and help me out. No problem. As busy as my schedule is, I'm going to devote 2 days a week, 4 hours each time, to sit with them and start training them. They were ready to throw them out. The new GM went in, he's like, I don't want them, they're horrible, I probably have the 2 worst BDC reps in all Long Island, get them out of here. Those are his words. They were never trained. They were never coached. They were never counseled by the previous management. I go in there 1 month, twice a week, that's it. Twice a week, 4 hours a week. First month out of the gate, the store went from $20,000 to $150,000. The GM himself said solely because of what came out of the BDC in terms of increase in outbound calls, appointments, shows, sales, etc. My point is not Tony as a superstar. My point is all it took was somebody to spend some time with them and to train them and coach and counsel them. All too often, again, we have a people problem, but the people problem is us because we don't invest the time. So progressive discipline, just an easy way to remember it, I call it the 3 C's: counsel, verbally, coach in writing and in conversation, which we just went through, and then obviously 3 is cease to cohabitate, which really means get out. But this is a nice way of doing it. But again, before we tell somebody to get out, what I tell all of my internet directors when they say, oh, this person's not working out, this person's not working out, evaluate yourself. Ask yourself this question. Before you ever terminate anyone, and I do this myself, ask yourself, and again, be honest with yourself. Did I really give everything I had to training, coaching, and counseling this person? And if the answer is yes, then let them go. But if you know deep down the answer is no, then you need to evaluate yourself, and you need to get back in there, and you need to give that person everything you have before you make a decision to cut the cord. Because again, the people problem was not them, it was you. So this starts with hiring the right people. Huge problem, I think, in this industry. Nobody has a hiring process. And if we do, we usually hire an outside company. Listen, I'm not saying don't hire an outside company. I'm just saying that I think the reason we hire outside companies is because we don't know how to interview and hire properly. So we just get somebody else to do it for us. Personally, I'm not entrusting my biggest asset to an outside company. I'm just not doing it. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to develop a process that works for me, and that's what I've done with regards to the internet departments. And then we spread it out even further to hiring salespeople and whoever it might be, finance managers, sales managers. Because, guys, it's nobody's fault. Most people in the car business came up through the business in somehow or some way. I started as a part-time receptionist in 2000. You know, so if you started as a salesperson and moved up from there, if you started, we have GMs that work for us 25 years, started as porters. But with that being said, nobody ever taught you how to interview. We never took a class on it. Here's how you interview, here's what you look for, here's what you should do. So I just took it upon myself to actually learn that. Most people don't, but that's the problem, and that's why we don't interview correctly and hire the right people. All too often I see general managers or general sales managers or sales managers, internet managers, whoever's in that management position, they do most of the talking. That's mistake number one in an interview. They do most of the talking, and then they ask the questions. Guys, if it's anybody with half a brain, you just fed them the answers to everything you're asking them. So that doesn't make any sense to me, but yet it's what we do. Also, I'm going to just take a shot and say, I don't know, I'm going to go out on a limb here. You think we have, like, big egos in this business or anything like that? No, right? No, not the car industry. So a lot of times I see managers just talking about themselves, what they've done. That's not an interview. So what is your interview process? So I say, first of all, have a virtual interview, which we'll get into in a second. So before you even waste your time, because you don't just want random people coming in, we're busy. Virtual interview. If you can have some sort of tool that automates it, great. If you can't, that's fine. It can be something as simple as emailing the person if the budget isn't there to have an actual tool, but there's plenty of them out there. Virtual interview. I have a list of 25 questions. I'm not even looking at your application until you respond to those questions in writing. Period. And we have people who just do the quick Indeed apply and don't do the virtual interview. I'll send them an invite one time. One time. Please complete the application. They don't complete it, I'm moving on. That's it. If you can't take the time to fill out 25 questions, then you probably don't want to work here, and I don't want you to work here. It's very simple. Then I do a phone interview. Again, this is super important, guys. This is a people business. If somebody cannot write well and somebody cannot speak well over the phone, why am I hiring them to speak to customers and represent my company? It makes no sense to me. Yet what I see is you have a pulse, you're willing to work 88 hours a week, you're hired, come on down. It makes no sense. We talked about doing all the talking or asking the questions and what are the phases of the interview. Guys, the harder you make it to get in, the less likely they are to leave. If you look at bigger companies, their interview processes take months. Now, I'm not saying it should take months. I don't know that that's necessary. But if your interview process takes a day, or you're hiring people on the spot, and then you're wondering why you don't have the right people, that's a huge part of your answer right there. So a virtual interview would just look something like this, and this is actually part of mine. See, we break it into categories: outside interest, personality, blah, blah, blah. Knowledge, skills, abilities. Okay, so you're willing to do what it takes to keep things running smoothly and efficiently. Do you consider yourself a confident communicator? Do you have the required skills and experience? Obviously, that's described in the job description. What do you believe are the essential skills needed to close a sale? How would you manage a difficult transaction? How do you handle losing a sale? This is all before I even pick up the phone. And again, if they don't fill this out, I'm moving on. Phone interview. Sample questions. It could be whatever you want. Point is, take the time to spend 10 minutes on the phone with them. I mean, it's really very simple. Again, can they speak well? References. Why don't we ever check references? Again, like one of the only industries that does do reference checks. I don't get it. Guys, the car business is a small world. As big as we think it is, it's a small world. Everybody knows somebody who worked for somebody who started in this dealership, who started in that dealership. So that's the part I really don't understand. We know these people. Pick up the phone. Hey, John Smith worked for you 2 years ago. Why doesn't he work for you anymore? Yet we don't do it. We don't do it. I don't get it. And again, me personally, in some states it's the law, in some states it's not the law. I don't really care if it's the law or not. All my references are in writing. I'm not interested in the phone. It's probably her mother, like pretending to be somebody that she worked for. I'm just not doing it. So, in writing. And I do it via email. I don't really know many people that fax, but if you have to do it that way, that's fine. But again, have a reference sheet. This is ours. Just, some questions. And I'd be more than happy to email a copy of the PowerPoint. You guys can reach out to me at the end, or it's just specific things. So you reference check, and then there's what I call the training or the right fit period. And I'm very honest with them about it. So now we go through all of these things, and of course we also do background check and so forth. So we go through all these things. All right, so I'm feeling comfortable hiring this person. Great. I will say to them, now we go through a week to see if this is a right fit for you and a right fit for us. It's obviously paid. Again, that may vary in different states, and we have to pay, so we pay for the week. And what I'll usually do, too, is I'll flood the department. So if I need 2 people, I'm going to hire 4 or 5. Because, guys, it's a numbers game. 3 of them are not showing up after day 1. I mean, we know what's going on with some of these people, right? So you want to, I would say, double it. You need 2, hire 4. But I tell them it's a week. So they know, like, you're not hired. It's a week to see if you're the right fit here, okay? And then what I'll do is I will send them to one of my best stores. I don't even care what store they're being hired for, but I will send them to one of my best stores and make them spend a week there. Some other things to consider, guys: schedule, pay plan, paid time off, bottom line, flexibility. Again, not all of us, but a lot of us have this, general notion that we still have to sell cars the way that we sold cars 10 or 15 years ago. It can't be done. Nobody wants to work 85 hours a week. Period. They don't want to do it. And you know what? I got to tell you, they shouldn't have to. You know why? Because the statistics tell us that most salespeople actually only work 2 to 3 hours out of an 8-hour day. The other 5, 6 hours, they're sitting around doing nothing. I know I see it in my dealerships. You guys can't tell me that you don't see it in yours. So that's why they need to work 88 hours a week to sell 2 cars. If I could hire somebody that could work 25 hours a week and still produce 25 cars a month, does it really matter to me? Doesn't matter to me. I could care less. We talk about, how do we hire millennials? We talk about how do we get more women in the business, I got to tell you right now, I got 2 small kids. If somebody told me how to work 85 hours a week, I'd be like, bye. I'm not working for you. Again, though, if a woman could work 30 hours a week and still sell 25, 30 cars a month, who cares? Because you know what? The guy sitting next to her that needs to work 80 because he wants to waste 6 hours a day, that's his problem. Then let him work 80. It doesn't have to be the same for everybody. There's got to be more paid time off. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, pay plan. Be creative with pay plans. When I write a pay plan, I just look at the annual comp. I don't really care how I get to it. I just know what that position should make annually, and I'll write it however it works for the person. If I hire an internet manager from outside my group where it's not a promotion, and that person will say, well, I get paid this way now, here's a copy of my pay plan. I don't even look at it. I don't care. What was your year-to-date last year? That's what I want to know. And however we need to write the pay plan to get to it is fine. What do you need to make, and here's what I could pay. So we got to get more creative with the pay plans. So now let's assume that all works out. You found the right person. Now what do? Train them. And train them right. And if you don't have a written training plan, then you are not training them right. I don't care how good of a job you think you're doing. I hate to break it to you. You could be doing a better one. Because if you don't have a written training plan and you're not prepared in advance, guess what? They are not getting trained the same way every single time. When you hire Phil on Tuesday, Phil gets trained based on your Tuesday mood. When you hire Joe on Thursday, maybe you had a fight with your husband before you came to work and that person gets the crap end of the stick or whatever. When it's written, you got to follow it. Everybody gets the same exact training no matter what. You don't leave anything out, and it's a well thought out training process. So what are you going to cover? When will it be covered? Testing. I have a basic new hire test. I know it sounds crazy, but I do. It's a written test. We take a BDC rep, they go through a week of training. Now they got to take the test. And if they don't do well in the test, then we got to go back and we got to train some more. Then you have a custom training plan. Why? Because 1 week is not enough time to train people. 1 week is great to set the foundations, and everybody learns at a different speed. Everybody learns differently. Not a lot of people are auditory. Most people are visual, or they need to touch it, feel it, see it, whatever. Point is, everybody's different. So you want to customize a training plan based on what you've seen in that person throughout the week. So maybe they did learn quick, and you know what? They're killing it. They learned all your phone scripts. They're great on the phone. They can't write an email to save their life. Okay, that's what I need to work on with that person, or vice versa. So custom training plan that, again, you're going to write it out, because if you don't write it out and you don't put a timeline to it, it's not going to happen. You're not going to keep up with it. They're certainly not going to chase you around for training. And then again, who's responsible for this person? So I'm a big fan of pairing them up with someone. So in most of my departments, I have a senior person. So that senior person is like the mentor, team captain. Take them under the wing. Yes, I'm going to get involved as the manager, but this person's kind of your responsibility. And then, of course, you're going to want to consider like some sort of team bonus or something to compensate that person for their time. So accountability from a leader's perspective. So you want to discuss metrics, benchmarks, which we all love to do, but here's the key here, and how to approach them. So one thing that I noticed is we do a great job of making sure other managers know what our key benchmarks are, but the people on the front line don't have a clue. So whether it's the BDC rep or the salesperson, they don't understand why you're telling them they need to make 120 phone calls a day. They just think that like you're smoking something, because it can't happen. But when you actually take the time to explain to them that, yes, you can make 120 calls a day, because it comes out to be 15 calls per hour, and here's your little sheet. And then on top of that, you need to make 120 calls so you could get 10 people on the phone. And we need you to get 10 people on the phone because you have to make 5 appointments a day, and you're probably going to have a 50% appointment set rate. Then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, wow, now I get it. But most people just say, you know what, hey, I need you to make 5 appointments a day. And this person's like, is she crazy? I can't make 5 appointments a day. That's an insane number. But we don't give them the whole formula. It's our fault. Some final takeaways. Again, I am not your typical car person. You probably never heard a car person say this before in your life. I'm going to say it. Family first. That's a leader. Be present. Let me tell you something. When we're on our deathbed, this isn't going to matter. The fact that I'm standing up here right now isn't going to matter. It's not going to matter to me, and it's certainly not going to matter to you. Your family always comes first. If you cannot lead your household, you cannot lead a team. I don't care what the statistics say. This business has the highest divorce rate next to attorneys and doctors. I'm not interested. It's because we don't take the time to be present, family first. And let me tell you something else. You go back and tell all your employers this. They can feel free to reach out to me. If they don't agree with that, go work someplace else. Because you probably don't want to work for that person anyway. 5 days a week, you're going to allocate time to ground yourself and see people, not tasks. Now, I say 5 days a week because that could be a Monday through Friday. Most of us work Saturdays, so you're probably not going to do that on a Saturday. Saturday's game day. So maybe you have your 4 weekdays or your 5 weekdays or your 4 weekdays and a Sunday. But you better allocate time in the morning to get grounded, however you do that. However you do that. I'm a Christian. I read the Bible. I realize that's not everybody else. Meditate. Do yoga. Go to the gym. Whatever works for you to ground yourself, do it. Get your head right. Mindset versus skill set. Get your head right if you're going to be leading people effectively. Ground yourself, and then again, focus on seeing people and not just the tasks. Determined to know your, 10-minute buffers. These are huge. My assistant knows this. I don't care how jam-packed my day is. I want 10-minute buffers between every single thing that's on my calendar. Minimum 10 minutes. Usually I go 20. But if it's really a jam-packed day, it's a minimum of 10 minutes. Why? Because if I'm just going from one thing to one thing to one thing to one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, guess what? That allocate time to ground yourself and see people, not tasks, is never going to happen. All you're going to see is tasks, and you're never going to see people. I need 10 minutes, again, to re-ground myself. However you're going to do that, it's different for everybody. Determined to know your people, managed by walk around. Again, all too often, especially those of us in executive level positions, you're sitting at a desk. Get up, walk around. See what's really going on in your store. See what's really going on with your people. Determined to know them, and don't just do it to make them feel good. Do it because you want to do it. You should know every single person that works for you and a little bit about them. Not how's your wife, how's Mary? Let them know you know his wife's name is Mary. These little things make a huge difference, guys. If you look at the statistics, not in this industry, in business in general. Why do people leave? Number one reason people leave. Jobs for other jobs. We think it's money. It's not money. It's not feeling appreciated, not feeling noticed. That's the number one reason people leave. Think of yourself less. Do for one what you wish you could do for all of them. Guys, can we do... I'd love to give my employees the world and, just be like a charity organization. Unfortunately, I can't afford to do that. But, that doesn't matter. I can't think like that. Well, because I can't do it for everybody, I'm just not going to do it at all. Do for one what you wish you could do for all of them. Fear-based environments are not creative. I learned this the hard way. I was 23 years old. 23 years old when I became a manager in this business. I started in the business at 18. From about 23 to 28, you did not want to work for me. Why? Because that's how I operated. People worked hard for me, and I was always successful, but they worked hard for me because they feared me, not because they wanted to follow me, because I was a manager and not a leader. Don't label or categorize your employees. We have a very, very, very high tendency to do this. Oh, that person looks this way, so they must be this. Stop. Be objective. Look at the productivity, not the label or the category of the person. Speak last. Anytime I hold a meeting, there could be 2 people in it, there could be 25 people in it, it doesn't matter. I let them speak first, and I'll always be sure to speak last. Listen to understand. This is obviously not mine. It's a habit of the highly effective people. 7 habits of highly effective people, but it's truth. So listen to understand, not to respond. We love to just respond, right? I mean, in everything, not just in work, right? You're arguing with your wife or your husband, and they're saying something, and you didn't even listen to them. You're just waiting for them to shut up so you could just, you did this, and this, right? What is that doing? That's a lose-lose for everybody. Challenge everything in a positive way. but why questions to understand their point of view. Remember, when we say, we want as leaders to have followers, we don't mean like, just soldiers that are just not just, yes, boss, yes, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is you want followers, people that have the same vision, people that are rowing the same way in the boat that you are, right? They're not toxic, they're not against you, things of that nature, but you want people who are going to be creative. You shouldn't always have the best idea. One of the partners in my group, Michael Brown, says all the time, and he is probably one of the top 3 most intelligent people I've ever met in my entire life, and he has said to me for 10 years, when I am in a room with all of my managers, GMs, executive, corporate people, I want to be the dumbest person in that room. Because that's how I know how I hired the right people. And that's always stuck with me. It's so true. So you want people to express themselves, but you want to challenge it in a good way. Get them to really think about it. Take it a step further. So the questions, ask questions, the why questions. This is a huge one for me. Maintain your personal values in all circumstances. I am not willing to compromise my personal values for anyone, be it somebody who works for me or be it my boss. It doesn't matter. When I feel like I have to compromise my personal values, our relationship is over, whatever type of relationship that might be. And I understand that everybody's personal values are different, and that's okay. But whatever they are, make a list. Maybe it's a personal mission statement or something of that nature, but just write them down so you really know what they are. And then don't compromise them. And I promise you then, once you have that, every hard decision will become just a little bit easier. There's always going to be hard decisions when you're a leader. But when you know what those personal values are and that you're not going to compromise any of them, usually the answer's staring you right in the face. And then do versus be. So that's kind of like, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk, right? So, the buzzword, lead by example, lead by example, lead by example. And half the people that say that don't even know what that means, let alone do it. So lead by example means get in the trenches with your people. I talked about the Volkswagen store before. When I said I went in and spent 4 hours a week training them, yeah, a good part of it was training, but guess what? If while I was sitting in that room, a phone up came in, I took it. An internet lead came in, I responded to it. I could have said, yeah, go ahead, guys, I'm just going to watch you and tell you what you're doing wrong. But you know what the person's thinking, even if they don't say it? Yeah, real easy for her to say. I'd like to see her tell the customer that. I'd like to see her do that. Well, guess what? Now you did, because I took it for you. So I showed you how it works. So you want to do that. You need to get in the trenches. And again, that goes back to the whole, the desk and the yelling and the screaming and just, again, the fear-based environment. Get off the desk. How about that? Get off the desk and go do it. My husband's the general sales manager for one of my Honda stores. They deliver 350 new Hondas a month and probably about 150 used cars. He's not getting through to them. He's getting off the desk. Not go tell the customer I said, come on, come. And not in a bad way. Just to show the salesperson that it can be done. And this is how you do it. That's coaching and counseling. That's do versus be. Remember where you started. We all started somewhere. And hopefully everybody in this room has a mentor or somebody that comes to mind that you can think of that gave you that shot, that invested that time in you, that's the reason you're sitting here in this room today. And then aspire to be that person to somebody else. It's not just about money. Like I said, we're all going to the same place, and you're not taking it with you, and neither am I. So nobody's going to remember how much money you made. You know what they're going to remember? They're going to remember how you impacted their life. So if that's one key takeaway, or you find yourself in a situation where, it's just so much easier to be the manager versus the leader, just take that 10-minute buffer and really just think of that. So moving forward, I hope when you leave here today, things are never the same, in a good way. Just think about these things. Who do you need to be kind to? And write an encouraging letter to that employee. do you need to be truthful with? In other words, really have the tough conversation, but we avoid it. You know, there's a way to be truthful and still be respectful and not hurtful. Give yourself an annual review. I do this every year. I do it personally, and I actually make it part of my annual reviews with my internet directors. It's a question on the review. What can I do differently? Give me a review. And you know what? They're not bad things, because that would just, I mean, then I probably wouldn't have my job. But I'm going to give you an example. A couple years ago, I asked one of my better, probably my best internet director that question at her review. And you know, she said to me, and I'll never forget it, and I do it now. She said, you know, I think you could pay a little bit more attention to your better internet directors. And I said, well, what do you mean? She's like, you know, just a check-in, you know. Call us once a week, or, you know, just shoot us an email, how everything's going. And, you know, I thought about it, and at first I'm like, oh, all right. But then I kind of got it, and I said, okay, well, I wasn't doing it because I didn't care about them. I was doing it because I didn't want it to seem like I was micromanaging them, because I knew that they were great. I knew they were doing a good job. I have 24 stores. Sometimes I'm operating on triage here, people. Right? There's one of me in 24 stores. You know, your leg's broken, this one's got a fatal gunshot wound. You're just going to have to hold on a second, you know? But then I thought, well, hey, you know, she took it the opposite way. I thought I was doing the right thing, and to her, she's feeling like I don't care. And so now that's what I do, once a week, with the, you know, the handful that really don't need me, but I'll still check in with them. So give yourself an annual review, ask your employees for feedback, and then commit to a vision. Once you focus on what you really want, this goes back to what's your personal values, what's your personal mission statement, then what you need becomes obvious. And then trust. You know, you have to learn to trust the people that work for you. I know it's hard, trust me. I'm a type A personality with like massive OCD. Just ask my husband. Nobody can do it as good as I can, so I'm just going to do it myself. That's something I really had to work on. I've got a lot better at it. But you got to learn to trust people. If you hire the right people, and you know you have, you really do got to give them a little bit of wiggle room, and you truly have to trust them. It's a really, really powerful partnership, and it both gives and demands. So I hope you guys got a lot out of that session, because again, no matter what else you see or hear here this week, again, that skill set is not going to matter if we're not treating our people correctly, if we don't have the right mindset. So does anybody have any questions? I think we're probably cutting it close, but I'll take some questions. Yes? My mother passed away. Yeah, so that really kind of just totally changed my outlook. Kind of, I talked about it, you know, a bit without, you know, specifically talking about her passing away, but what's really important. And how do I want people to remember me? How am I positively impacting their life? So that's what changed it for me. No other questions? Nobody? Come on, Sean, you always have a question. Yes, Todd. So I give them, as a great question, Todd. So obviously we have processes that you can't deviate from, right? So I think of it more as like a blueprint. Give them the blueprint, but as long as they get to the result that we both want, I don't really care how they get there. And I think, again, it varies too. You know, I have, call it 5 or 6 of them where I give them 100% trust. I just know they're going to get it done. And then maybe I have another 5 or 6 where I give them a little bit, but I got to check on it, right? So I'm going to trust you to do it, but I know in the back of my head, you know, in a week or 2, I got to go just make sure they got it done. Or, you know, and then I have the few that just need help. So I think it depends on the personality. Yes, Dan? No. I do the final interview. So at which point, I will never veto, for lack of a better term, their decision. I will give my feedback. It's usually right. Um, but what I always say is they got to work with them all day, not me. I get to sit in my office, you know? So I let them start the process. They go through that entire process that we talked about. But then ultimately, when they're at the ready to hire, like, I want this person, okay, send them to me. And then I'll just do like kind of like a quick follow-up interview. And then at that point, again, I'll give my feedback like, hey, I think you made a good choice, move forward. Or I'll say, you know, look, this is what I think, this is what I see. You might want to rethink that one. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't listen. And usually when they don't listen, that person's gone in 2 months. Yes. Sean. Important. Yeah, I mean, so I think that, well, first of all, it's kind of a two-part answer. So first of all, it's hire the right people, and I think that that training period, right fit period, is super important, because that week is where you kind of can figure out if they're going to do it or not do it. Because for us, it's the CRM. It just isn't optional, right? It's part of the job. You need to do it. And again, I like to set my expectations up front in the virtual interview, in the job description, in the actual physical interview. Like, this is the expectation. This is non-negotiable for us. So if you can't do it, you can't work here, you know? But before, I think what Sean is asking is, you know, prior to that happening, so when I first got to this group about 10 years ago, we didn't have that. You know, we inherited whatever, call them the veterans that weren't used to doing it or just didn't want to do it. So I implemented what I called a CRM error list. And so this kind of speaks to the coaching and counseling, because what I did was I listed out each day. It was time consuming, but you know what? As an internet manager, you're doing it anyway. You're cleaning up the CRM. So as I was cleaning it up, I would make a list of everything that was done incorrectly or wrong or not entered, and with the person's name, the salesperson's name, and I would send it to the management team. But, you know, what we could have done, what a lot of dealers would have done, was A, ignored it, or B, just yelled at that person. Hey, you know, Sean, you know, you're a jerk. Why didn't you do it? Blah, 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 blah. What's wrong with you? You know, either do it or get out, or, you know, that whole old school mentality. Instead, we turned it into a coaching and counseling session. So it was, hey, Sean, you know, you're on this list today. You need to go up and see Tony Ann, and you need to learn how to do it. And so those people would then get sent up to me, and I would go through it with them. I would retrain them on how to use it. Because really, the bottom line is there's two types of people included in that group. The ones that know how to do it but think they're going to get away with it. But when they see that everybody in management is on board, and every single day for 4 weeks they had to go upstairs and spend 15 minutes listening to me, eventually they just got with the program and just started doing it because they didn't want to hear from me anymore. Or you had the people, which is about half of your people, that you assume know how to do it, but they don't. And again, you know, I'm a fast learner, but everybody learns at a different pace. There are certain people that you have to show them 10 times. It just is what it is. But if I'm going to fix it anyway, I might as well turn it into a coaching and counseling experience. And it worked for us. And now we have probably, I would say, like 98% perfect usage of the CRM in almost every store. Yes. I was just thinking this is, how to answer that one legally. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so the person is above you and they're hindering the company. Do you know what that? I know it sounds weird, but if you had to guess, what's that person's personality type? Like, are they more extroverted, introverted? Are they visual? Are they? Okay. Do they make like quick decisions? Okay. So they're probably a dominant personality type. Yeah. And what would you say you are? Okay. So, the reason why I asked that, because this is something that I also train on too, is kind of managing by personality type, but also dealing with your superior by personality type, right? Because a lot of times who we work for is a different personality type than we are, and the people that work for us are a lot of times a different personality type. So I would say, because that person sounds like, I'll say similar to me in the way of being a dominant personality type, straight to the point, get to the point, I don't have time for it, but obviously hindering your company instead of doing it in a positive way. So the one thing that I will tell you is you can't fight fire with people like that. So, and that's why I asked what your personality type was. So you can't, two dominant people, that's what happens. And I know, again, you're just dominant, so right away, your hair goes up. It's the fight or flight, right? And I ain't fleeing, I'll tell you that right now. We're fighting. And that's probably that person too. So what I would say is, if they're visual, I would try to put something, but short, because again, they're visual, but they're get to the point. Something visual together that shows how they're negatively impacting the company. And if you can translate it to dollars, that would be super helpful. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But if you can translate it to like lost profit, that usually always wakes up executive management, whether they want to admit it or not. And my guess is in that initial encounter with that person, they're not going to sit there and be like, hey, yeah, you're right. Let's go sing Kumbaya and be best friends and like braid each other's hair. It's not going to happen. But they are going to think about it. Because if somebody came to me in a respectful way and said, hey, here's what's going on visually, right? And here's how it's kind of negatively impacting the company. And don't make it about them specifically, right? But maybe more just about like general behaviors or general topics, so that in the back of their head, they're like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I've contributed to that. Again, they're not going to admit it to you, but they're going to start to think about it. That's probably the best way to communicate it. And then again, if it's not, if you can't translate it to dollars, maybe it's just you're losing people, but there's still a metric you can assign to that, or, whatever the case might be. No problem. Yes, sir. Yes. So I think generally speaking, you want to have at least a 50-50 split as far as like salary commission, because this is still a sales business. But my point about being flexible is, if it's a 50-50 split, does it really matter how you get to it, is my point. Like, as long as you're within your annual comp range, and comp to gross is something huge in my group, so we're certainly not overpaying. Like, every store in my group has to be under 50% comp to gross, or it's a major problem. And they get like the direct order, like, you need to cut people now. So either that or get your production up, but you better get under 50%. So we have, the annual comp guideline, and of course, look, that's going to depend on, what you need to live on Long Island may not be what you need to live elsewhere. So it's going to be different based on the market. But let's say your annual number for an internet director is $100,000 for round number purposes. Maybe at their last dealership, that was their year to date, they made $100,000, and their upfront salary was $800 a week, and their commission made up for 50 or 60% of the rest of that $100,000, but they got paid on appointments made and appointments shown. Well, maybe I'm not going to pay on appointments made, but so that's what I mean when I say be creative. As long as I can still get that person to that $100,000 amount, which is what I know I can afford to pay for that position, does it matter? So that's what I mean when I say be creative. Yes. That's BS, and I'm going to tell you why. And you know what? Make sure you take my card afterwards, okay? Because I'm going to help you pull together a little memo for them, all right? But nonsense. Here's why. It actually does equate to, and I was not just throwing a random number out there, if they are full-time, 8 hours, it equates to 15 calls an hour. You are only going to make 10 to 15 connections, right? So I'm going to call it 10 just for now for round number purposes. So what does that mean? That means that if you're making 120 calls a day, 110 of them are left messages. You know how long it takes to leave a message? 1 minute and 50 seconds. I timed it to prove it to people that I had that said the same thing. We actually did an exercise in the training class. That's coaching and counseling too. You know, instead of just saying, no, you can do it, I said, oh, okay, let's just do it. So we did the exercise. And I left the proper message. Hi, this is Tony Ann calling from Atlantic Toyota. We received your internet purchase request. And I went through the whole spiel that they would go through, 1 minute and 50 seconds. And then we actually mathematically calculated it out, including their lunch breaks and whatever other breaks they might get. And they still had time to make 150 calls, not just 120. But I would actually run through that exercise with them, which I could help you out with. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I guess I can. Yeah, well, they don't get it either then, so we'll have to just maybe draft a little separate email for them. But yeah, no, you definitely can. 100% you can, with time left over. Yes, with time left over. Any other questions? Yes. So you guys, if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, if you want to just reach out to me for extra questions, or some help like she needed over there, or just maybe you want to have a private one-on-one, you didn't necessarily want to voice your concern publicly today, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. My email is on there. It's tonyann@thebillionDollarGirl.com. Also, on Facebook, you can just search The $1 Billion Girl, and you can just like the page, and then I'll definitely follow up with you for your information. Last call for questions. All right, so thank you so much, guys, and just do me a favor, if you did enjoy the session today and you feel like you got something out of it, just rate the session, please. That would be great, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a great day.